The incident involving missiles, UFOs, nukes, and hucksters. Everybody already knows my opinion, but I'm going to be doing a series of videos, probably on just one channel, about what's sometimes called the Malmstrom incident. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Hoaxes involving military incidents is actually a Wikipedia page. It's all that's left of people attempting to bash Wikipedia with pages about this because a bunch of zealots showed up. There's scribed pages, arguments back and forth, personalities are involved. But here's the gist of it. The assertion and claim that UFOs are known to go around nuke bases and nuke launching facilities and interfere with them at random, but not just shut them down or something. Now, I'm going to go into this really quickly from a personal and tactical perspective. This is a stupid assertion. It doesn't make any sense, and it would accomplish nothing. Think of it from the standpoint of a person actually trying to do these things. What are you accomplishing? Well, what you accomplish is creating an X-Files episode with a whistling music background as well, but you don't accomplish anything. This is like the equivalent of going to someone's house to prove that you can unlock the door by fiddling with a lock, but not succeeding in opening it or breaking it. None of this makes any sense, but it is exactly the tease mode that you need to make a cliffhanger-style meme. That's what it is, and I haven't wasted any of your time telling you this. It's not really an opinion. It has every earmark of every single cock and bull story I've seen. But I'm going to go into a few things here. There are 3 or more people who get their names bandied about this, and this creates an immediate gish gallop, because when one person eventually says, "No, I never said that during your interview," the person doing the interview then whips out 4 other interviews with some audio maybe modified. So let's get into this. One of the things you're going to hear screamed by the principal antagonist here is, "Don't call vets liars. Vets are liars." Yeah, every one of you knows somebody who used to be in the war or was just in the military, and that's it, who happens to lie all the time because they tell tall tales. That's actually part and parcel of being in the military. And if you don't want to go insane, you tell each other silly stories to keep each other from losing it. And you also learn to not really tell people the truth about things and just babble until they go away, because you're not allowed to talk about certain things. Yeah, ex-military people sometimes don't reveal secrets, but that does make them a liar, technically, doesn't it? But you can't say that about... Yes, I can. Next, no one is calling any vets a liar. I'm not. I'm calling the bastard who keeps lying about this, who also happens to be a vet, a liar. But I'm not naming him. We call faked UFO evidence, and we call the person who won't knock off presenting it a liar. Just because a bunch of people said you're full of shit in the military when you saw a UFO doesn't mean everybody else within 50 miles is full of shit either. You could have seen something. I'm not saying he didn't see something, the antagonist here. Faking anything and creating it, that makes you a liar. It doesn't matter if you're a true believer. Just because you're a zealot doesn't mean you're not also a liar. Now I'm going to refer to a few people here. Retired Captain Eric D. Carlson was the commander of Echo Flight, March 16th, 1967, and his son, James, investigated the claims made about him and other people who were there during that period of time when a missile battery was supposed to have been disabled by UFOs, and that's it. Now the thing is, this is based on someone who is, no one's arguing whether or not this other person was there. Some other person may have been there at the time in the area at some time, either that year or years before or years after, had a UFO incident and went looking for other incidents to confirm it. Maybe because that person feels really put upon because they reported a UFO incident and got made fun of. Pro tip, the way currently, and even then, I'm sorry, I gotta say this, if you were at a location that was a high security location and you say, "I saw some lights in the sky," if somebody laughed at you, a competent superior should slap the shit out of you for laughing at them. No, he's reporting an incident near a nuke base. We're going to investigate it because we don't want someone breaking into the nuke base and launching them at us. You idiot. That's the first and last response you'd have somebody who says, don't report an incident at night with lights. And the thing is, that attitude you're hearing out of me is actually standard attitude out of the military. There's a meme about the military people somehow being buffoonish like out of a bad X-Files episode where they don't think a flying object near a secure location should be investigated. What kind of fucking idiot do you think everybody in the military suddenly is? Yeah, I'm sure there's some chicken colonels who are like that. There's some people who went through ROTC and didn't actually have to fire a gun. I understand that. Yes, I have an attitude about pissy little bitches. They do exist. But eventually someone's going to check that file. Someone's going to hear that statement and come back and say, why the hell didn't you investigate this? That could have been an actual break-in. I'm sorry. Someone says, oh, well, a little purple ape showed up on one of the computers here at the bank. Okay, well, that's Bonsai Buddy, and it's a virus, and it's extremely weaponizable. Didn't you report that? No, you are now the essence of fired, and I'm not letting you leave the building until I get rid of the damn thing, because I'm going to let you sit here, and you're not earning a dime. No, you report every weird thing on a computer, because it might be a goddamn virus. This is something you drill into every employee's head within 15 seconds of them saying, oh, I don't think we're going to have any problems. That's why we have problems. And the military is a lot nastier about this than you might think. But yeah, there are some places that slack off. I'm sorry, if you're guarding Fort Knox, yeah, you got to have high security, but seriously, gold's heavy and people stealing it, they're going to be a little obvious sometimes. So let's get on with it. The investigated claims done by James Carlson are the primary sources I'm using because nobody's arguing whether he's a relative of the person who was there. The entire flight of 10 Minuteman missiles at Echo Flight at Malmstrom was disabled by an electronic noise pulse within logic coupler located at the Launch Control Center. A quasi-analog computer screwed up, and they went into fail-safe, not fail-deadly, shutting down, which means you have to get a tech out there to fix it and make it not happen again. It happened again at a different location or a different time because they call them Echo and Oscar flights for a specific reason. Now, I'm not investigating which reasoning it is. It doesn't matter. Yes, I'm going to be told, you're supposed to know that before you comment. No, I'm not. I won't. They are in different days, by the way. But anyway, that was an actual incident that really happened. A piece of equipment screwed up. But the Malmstrom nuclear missile UFO incident, March 1967, Echo Flight 16th and 24th for Oscar Flight, were a retro hoax put over the top of actual incidents, and apparently one sore ass who didn't like being laughed at because he reported a UFO incident, and honestly I feel for him, he shouldn't have been laughed at. But his claim apparently isn't that he was laughed at. I doubt that. I think he found the one asshat in the military who would ignore somebody saying, I saw something suspicious. Anyway, all named witnesses are included here that I'm listing that are in the short form version of it. Walt Feigl and Eric Carlson. The father of James Carlson, the person who's posting these things. But they insisted there were no UFOs sighted or reported or investigated. The actual cause of the missile failures was well established to be an electrical malfunction in the system because that's fucking common. There are unclassified now files talking about this shit happening way too goddamn often. They just assumed it was going to happen eventually. Way too often, in my opinion, is once a year. It should never happen. That's why they switched over to equipment that was a lot more fail-safe than can be left enabled all the time. That's why we like our digital computers with fiber optic cables and whatever else we got to do. You want this shit not to happen. A lot of these Air Force Base locations used independent power supplies, and those supplies actually produced noisy electricity or dirty electricity, and they would screw computers up. That is actually where the term glitch comes from, partially. Bus contention is actually where the word glitch comes from. But in the past, it was from electrical disturbances or transient pops and clicks, from everything from relays to motors, or even light switches. Hence the reason that they got really good eventually at not letting this shit happen. And yes, old school analog equipment with tubes was a lot less sensitive because it would just ride the pulse, not the newer stuff. And anyway, this is 67 we're talking about. Testimonials attributed to them were, in their opinion later on, either embellished, reworded, edited, or outright faked, or they had nothing to do with them. One of them, only one, is listed as being an actual interview out of these people so far. Now, there were other people there. There were people on, above ground, topside. A bunch of people. But the statements about them are so over the top that I don't believe a lot of this, because it's building tension for a cool story. This is my opinion we're doing here, but let's get on with this. They altered the facts about the event to make it more exciting sounding. They embellished it. And I'm talking about the people who are our antagonists and his helpers. Then they have used their relative fame to travel around giving presentations together with other people. Now, I'll name the names in the title. I'm not saying that they're lying. I'm saying that they are true believers that are willing to embellish, at best case. At worst case, they're fabricobbling shit so they don't have to admit that somebody recanted it later. And the thing is, when you tell them, I don't believe the story of this vet, they say, don't call vets liars. But when that same vet eventually comes back and say, I never said that. Why do you have that in your written interview that I never did with you? Then they call him a liar immediately. So you can't do that complaint. Don't call vets liars. Well, don't let these other vets call each other liars either after they get told, I never said that in an interview. Now, one of them did an audio interview in the 1990s. Years later, said he couldn't really recall very well because it was many years before. And honestly, if you can't remember a UFO incident that shut off nuclear missiles, that means it probably didn't fucking happen. I'm sorry, but let's just do the stage 0 test. Wouldn't you remember that? Wouldn't that be in your diary? Wouldn't you just put down on that date on the diary, dun dun dun, or something like that, where you want someone to look at and not know what it is, but you know what it is? Any of you leave your own secret message to yourself? I do. I send myself an email on some of these days with a specific word in it, where if I email search the word, I can find every day something weird happened. Just in case I want to go look it up. But not only do they get fame, they get money. They sell stuff. If you want access to their evidence, they claim a copyright over it. So you can't present it in a YouTube video or post it anywhere without them suing you for overt actual copyright infringement. Because essentially they're claiming this is their cock and bull story they made up. They have creative control over it. The claims of Robert Hastings, James Holtz, and Robert Sales are being analyzed here. I'm not saying which one I'm saying did what to who and for how many cookies. I'm saying they're all zealots and or hucksters. But I'm not saying they're liars. That is actually too strong of a statement. I'm saying flat out I think that they have fudged the evidence. 1990s documents smuggled out of Russia confirm Soviet nukes were also the focus of UFO interest during Cold War era, and of course there were shutdowns. But these are anonymous sources, can't be double-checked, and that's intentional. Albuquerque, New Mexico, UFO researcher Robert Hastings claims UFO beings are occasionally disrupting our nukes to send a message to the Americans and the Soviet-Russian government that their possession of potential large-scale use of nuclear weapons threatens the future of humanity, environmental integrity of the planet. Really? So they're benefactors. Sci-fi movie mode. Robert Jameson, a retired U.S. Air Force nuclear missile targeting officer, has said several occasions go out and restart missiles that have been deactivated after UFO sightings. 2010 U.S. Air Force personnel have alleged UFO involvement in large-scale missile disruption. 2012, Hastings doubled down on his Oscar flight statements, even though they were debunked by the people he said who were witnesses. Echo Flight's a Fantasy, Anatomy of the UFO Hoax by James Carlson should be read. Links below in the description. This is part 0.